All right, it looks like we are good to go. Hi guys, my name is Gina. I am the Marketing and Communications Manager for Sparrows. Sparrows is a very new venture-backed startup based out of Silicon Valley. We are completely remote, so I'm currently in Chicago while the rest of my colleagues are mostly in the California area. There are only 4 full-time employees at this moment, and we have a whole bunch of interns that come in and out in different classes. Um, so just to give you a quick little rundown about Sparrows, hopefully you guys all had a chance to check out our website before joining, but if not, basically Sparrows is a new type of social network. We are looking to humanize the professional world by adding who you are on top of what you've done. So when you go on LinkedIn, you connect with people based off of, where you went to school or what kind of job you have or company you work at. Versus on Sparrows, you can actually connect with people based on common interests or countries you visited or favorite bands and things like that, as well as the professional aspect, which is like your resume and where you went to school. Um, we built this because we just saw this big gap where people are connecting and talking to recruiters and hiring managers just solely based off of the internships they've had or where they've worked, where we all think that there's a little bit more to a person than just that. Our CEO and founder knows firsthand, honestly, that um, you can do so much just based off of who you are as a person rather than the experiences you've had professionally. Some people don't have the chance to go to like an Ivy League school, and that shouldn't matter and that shouldn't affect your job. So that's why this platform was kind of built. Um, so right now we are still building the website. It's in its beginning phases, and we have a lot of really great things that are going to be introduced over the next few months. Right now, it is just a profile that you'll build, and that profile you'll add things about, an interesting factoid about who you are, a little bio, your resume, your links to your social media, your LinkedIn. You can even put your Instagram on there if you want. You'll also be able to add things like your favorite music and favorite foods and everything like that. And I'll take you guys through how you sign up shortly. Um, so that's kind of what it is now. Soon enough, we're going to have the connection aspect built where you can actually connect with people. And what will happen is if you went onto my profile and we had something in common, let's say we had the same favorite food and it's sushi. You could be like, oh, I really like sushi too. And looking at Gina's profile, we actually have more in common and she has a really cool like job and network and whatever. And I want to connect with her. And we'll have a whole onboarding aspect that's going to be built out soon where you can click connect with me, write why you want to connect with me, send me a message. So it's a little bit more personal than how you do it on LinkedIn. I don't know about you guys, but I get connections from LinkedIn all the time from people I don't know. Sometimes they write a message, sometimes they don't. This, you'll have to write, this is why I want to connect with you. This is how I know you, if that's possible, and all of that. So all that stuff is being built out, and um, it's going to be, once that's all built out, it's going to be really unique and different. But just to take you through how to build a profile, I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully you guys can all see this. Can everybody see my screen? Cool. So basically what you do is you go to sparrows.co and you'll put in your email and go to the register button. This will then bring you to this little register page where you add your first name, your last name, your title, even if it's student, doesn't really matter, company or school, your email and all of that. I do recommend using your personal email versus your school email because the second you don't go to the university anymore, obviously that email is no longer active. So this is kind of that information. I already pre-filled it out just to save some time. And you click register, and then you'll get a link that goes to your email, and you'll have to confirm that. Once that's all confirmed, you'll have the opportunity to build your profile. As you can see, mine's already built out. You can add a cover photo, a profile picture, your name, your title, where you're from. This part automatically gets filled out. And then we have all these great things that you can go through. We have one sentence about me, who I am. So I'm currently the marketing communications manager at Sparrows. And then I go on to talk about a little bit about what I like to do and the kind of work that I do. You have your interesting factoid. we've had some ones from all different aspects. We have people who are like, my favorite color is yellow and that's all I wear. People who've been backpacking through Costa Rica. It could be anything. It could be really unique. It could be what you might deem as not unique, but anything that's interesting to you. Languages you speak, countries you visited, and then you get into, the more professional aspect where it's what I've done. So this is my professional experience. I've also linked my LinkedIn here. My professional expertise and professional interests. So you add all these in and you just type them in and click enter. It's very easy. I could actually just show you how to do that really quickly. You just click the little edit button. It's a little pencil. And when you edit, you can just write, what your professional expertise is and click enter. And there you go. And that's how you do it for basically all of these little sections, is just type it in and hit enter. Then we get into, the what I stand for. And this, it gets a little bit more personal, it's your social causes, things that you believe in. Then you go into what inspires me. So I have a couple different Instagram handles linked here that I really like to read and look at, books that I really like, my hobbies, food, drinks, music, and so on. And so all of this is kind of how you'll eventually connect with people. You'll be able to go on my profile and be like, oh, I also have pasta on my profile, and that'll be highlighted blue. And then you go down into your education and everything like that. There's also the opportunity to add your bucket list, which I need to add. I don't have that yet because I don't really know what my bucket list is. There's so many things, and you can just add your what items you have on your personal bucket list. Does anybody have any questions at this point, or anything that I could help clarify as I've gone through this? No? Okay.
No questions here.
Awesome. Thank you. So that's basically how you sign up and how you build your profile. Then you're probably wondering, how do you use your profile? So what our goal for Sparrows is we're looking for Sparrows to be the URL that you put at the bottom of your email signature, the one that you put on the top of your resume. When you're applying for jobs and they give you the option to add a link, you add your Sparrows link, because automatically that gives recruiters and hiring managers a 360-degree view of who you are. It helps them see if you're a culture fit, if you have the right experience, if they have any of the same interests as you do, because that could also just help you get ahead of the game. If a recruiter sees that you visited the same country or went on the same study abroad program, automatically they're gonna probably like you a little bit more and want to talk to you. So that's what we're really hoping for Sparrows. We're hoping that that becomes the norm, the new way to connect. Eventually, we would like to change it to be, oh, I met Kristen, let me connect with her on LinkedIn. Instead, it would be like, oh, I met Kristen, let me connect with her on Sparrows. We want to change that behavior, and that's really the goal for Sparrows at this moment. And we are getting there. Hopefully, we're growing our user base every day. We have a few thousand users now, and we're continuing to look to add more. So that's just Sparrows. That's who Sparrows is on an overall kind of high level view. How to build a profile, how I recommend you use a profile. I do recommend that everybody here makes a profile and, adds it to the bottom of their email signature, to your resume, to all your job applications, because I do really think it helps you stand out, and it's something different and something people are still learning about. So I think that it gives, recruiters and hiring managers something really interesting to look at, especially if you don't have a website or a portfolio or anything like that. Not everybody's work requires one. So this is another really nice way to just showcase yourself to hiring managers and recruiters. So that's it from kind of the Sparrows perspective. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer some. Otherwise, I'll kind of go into what working for a startup is like and everything like that.
Gina, there was a question that popped up in the chat asking, is there a market age group for using this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now we're seeing our biggest age group that we're seeing right now join Sparrows is Gen Z. But I don't think it's just for Gen Z. I think a lot of people, it doesn't matter what generation you're from, how old you are, could find a lot of use in this. I think this year has been really crazy. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are starting over, even if you've been working, for 40 plus years. And it gives people a really good way to kind of just take a step back, talk about yourself in a different way, and add a little bit of extra flair to when you're applying to jobs. So we are definitely seeing Gen Z being the ones that are using it the most. They're the social media kind of group anyways. So that's definitely what we're seeing, but I think it's really for everybody. I don't think anybody would have any issues filling out a profile. I think actually probably the older you are, the easier it is to fill these kinds of things out because you have more experience and everything like that. But that's kind of what we're thinking right now. Is there any other questions before I go on to what it's like working for a startup?
Do you think that there's opportunities that this complements with other social media platforms? So if you are already using LinkedIn, or if you're using other social media platforms, where this can kind of be part of your, an additional profile that can work kind of in tandem with other things that you're using?
Yeah, for sure. I think for LinkedIn specifically, it could definitely be used in tandem because LinkedIn truly is your resume. It's everything you've done. It's where you've gone to school. It's you typically connect with people based on like jobs that you're applying for or where you work or where you went to school and everything like that. So I think it could definitely be used in tandem with LinkedIn. And I think when you're applying for jobs and stuff like that, you will most likely add both links and or at the bottom of your email signature have both links. I think that also even on your LinkedIn page, you can add your Sparrows link and everything like that. Just like how on Sparrows you could add your LinkedIn link. So I think that they could definitely work in tandem and they're both very beneficial platforms that hopefully will just get you ahead of the game when you're looking for new positions or you're just trying to network. Any other questions?
There was another question that popped up in the chat asking if this is accessible by an app.
It's not accessible by an app currently. That is in the future plans. So I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but Sparrows is only about a year old. So we're still really, really young. And this website, the platform has only been truly active and working since September. So as all these functions are being built out, they're being built out for the website, but they're being built out so eventually they work to be put on an app. And that is one of our goals, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later because I know so many people prefer the app platform than going on their computer on the website. So it will be eventually, just not at this moment. Cool. Well, if there's no more questions about Sparrows, I would love to start talking about just a little bit about working for a startup and what that's like if everybody is ready for that. Okay, cool. I'm just going to get started. So I personally have always worked for a startup, even all the way back for when I was doing internships in college. I really like the startup life, but it definitely is for a particular person, I would say. It's really fast paced, it's always changing. You can't plan to go into work one day with like this whole schedule and not be comfortable with that changing because it happens all the time. Um, I think the biggest thing about working for a startup is you need to be flexible. But with that being said, startups also give you so many opportunities. Working for a young company, I mean, there's so many opportunities to grow. I don't, I personally have not had the feeling when I've been working for a startup where I've been capped off at all. I feel like there's always opportunities, especially young startups like the one I'm working for currently. Um, the more that the product develops, no matter where you are, the more opportunities there's going to be for you. It's also really great because you get a lot of autonomy and you get a lot of independence. So if you work well that way, it could be really good for you and really just rewarding. I love being able to, tell my boss about an idea I have and him just being like, okay, go try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's kind of how it's been in my experience for all startups. Um, I really enjoy working for these young companies because it's really rewarding to see a company or a product or whatever it might be kind of just get built from the ground up. Like this particular platform, Sparrows. I mean, I've been working here since February and I've already seen so much change. It's unbelievable. And we're adding more interns, we're having intern classes, we're hiring a couple more people. Like there's opportunities and you'll see the growth, and it's really rewarding. And you also get a lot of opportunity to speak with, the C levels of your company. Whereas if you're at a huge company, you're not going to get that. I report directly into our CEO and I talk to him on a daily basis. I've had that in most of my experiences at different startups that I've been at. Um, and I think that's really unique and really special, and also just makes you feel like a bigger part of the company. I mean, I think it's great to be a big fish in a small pond rather than a small fish in a big pond. I That's how my personality works best. I've always really enjoyed it. Um, on top of that, I mean, the benefits working for startups, and it's not all startups, this is just some that have been in my experience. A lot of startups offer equity. So then you get a little piece of the company that you technically own. Um, which the best part about that, I mean, I think it makes you work harder because you want that company to hopefully, go public and get sold. So then you can get whatever your little piece of equity is. Um, a lot of them have more flexible vacation time because they're newer and they're not stuck in like kind of old ways that some people worked. Um, there's more opportunity for travel a lot of times. I work fully remotely. In my experience, I've worked a mix of both remote and in the office, and they both are great. They both have different benefits. I personally love working remotely. I love having the opportunity to, you know, pack up my laptop and go sit outside at the coffee shop for a couple hours, or go to Arizona and sit in the sun for a couple hours once I'm sick of the Chicago weather, everything like that. So there's a lot of benefits in terms of both just benefits for the employee and the growth within the company and being able to watch a product grow from the ground up. It's really rewarding. And that's my experience with startups and what I really liked about it. I personally recommend everybody, especially if you're just starting your career, to work for a startup or get an internship with a startup. It's very hands on. You learn so much. And I think that I was really lucky where when I was in college, I interned for a startup and I was basically like doing all the marketing. I had one person above me, and then everything else was kind of just on me. And I was able to learn so much in such a short period of time that I felt like it really set me up well for knowing what I want to do with my career, and then also just getting a job and like a full-time role after college and everything like that. Um, so that's been my experience. That's what I really like about startups. Is there any specific questions that I can answer about working for a startup? I don't know if that's what I said is very helpful, but hopefully it is. Is anybody looking for internships or looking to apply to jobs and have like looked at startups yet?
Gina, can you provide a little advice and maybe tell a little bit more of your story in terms of how you first engaged with a startup for an internship,
Yep.
and also in terms of finding opportunities? Because I think with startups, again, being so new and so lean, that sometimes it might not be as easy to find or
Yeah.
identify organizations that are new because they're, again, they're new and everything's starting out. So it might be harder to find. So if you have any tips in terms of how you
Yeah.
kind of fell into that, and just in terms of the search itself, like where to look and ideas on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first internship with the startup, I was actually very lucky because it was of childhood friends of mine's father who owned the company. And we hadn't been close for years, but I had saw the job posting and I was like, wait, I know this guy. Like, I know who owns this company. So I had reached out to the family and was like, and I saw the internship and I was like, I'm really interested in this. Um, Went through the whole interview process and everything. And I was lucky enough to get introduced to that kind of by way of knowing people. I worked for that company for 3 months. It was a summer internship. I reported directly into the director of marketing, and I mean, every day was different. I learned so much, and it was in an office position. This was years ago, so obviously there was no COVID, and it was just in downtown Chicago, and it was really exciting. I took the train there from my parents' house in the suburbs every day. Um, it was really cool. I mean, they're just different. Everybody that worked there was really young. it was also tech startup. So working at tech startups, also, there's usually not very many women that work there. Luckily, this one had quite a few. So I was able to make some really good relationships with people that I still stay in contact to this day. Um, we're always like, we're all connected on LinkedIn and everything. So it's great to see people, growing within their careers. Um, so that's kind of how I started with my startup journey. From there, I knew that I wanted to work for a startup once I graduated college. And so different ways to look for startups is one, there's this website called Built In. They're in all different cities. So the one that I look at is builtinchicago.com. There's also like built in San Francisco. I think there's probably built in Los Angeles, built in basically everywhere. You could probably just go to builtin.com and find out what all cities there are. But that's a really good website because it's basically all startups. And not only is it job postings, but it's also articles, companies, like, the top 10 best companies to work for, the best companies hiring right now, companies with like the biggest PTO offerings. Like there's just different articles on there to also check out. Companies that win awards, everything like that. So basically on Built In, there's a job section and there's a whole different there's a bunch of like different tabs that you could pick for. So I picked marketing, my location and everything like that. And it just takes you to all these different jobs, your level, if it's entry level, mid level, senior level. Um, and it introduced me to quite a lot of different companies that I never even heard of before. So that's one really good website. There's also another one called angel.co or AngelList. That's also very all startups. Those ones are, I would say, are even newer than the ones on Built In. They're way less developed. They're more like a Sparrows for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, that's what it's like. So there's some really great jobs on there, really cool companies just to learn about too. And then also LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, there's definitely jobs on there from startups. It's a little bit harder to find, I would say, because you can't just type in startup here. So whereas Angel and Built In, there's it's easier to kind of find. But once you are introduced to those companies on any of those websites, you could always look them up on LinkedIn and everything or Glassdoor and find out more about them. But that's kind of how I personally find my positions when I wanted to work at different startups. Um, Hopefully that helps answer that question. I also, from after my internship and I got a full-time job after college, I found that position on LinkedIn, and it was a startup, but also an older startup, I would say, way more established. And then I found my position at Sparrows also on LinkedIn. Um, but I'm pretty sure I saw Sparrows on Angel first, and then I went onto their LinkedIn page to apply and learn more about them. I see there's another question. Do you do mostly marketing or do you do programming as well? Me personally, I only do marketing. Our company, though, we have both. So hopefully that helps answer that question. I don't do any programming. I don't know how to do that. I just do marketing personally. But if you were interested in data analytics or web design development and everything like that, there's definitely opportunities there within my company, as well as I'm just in many startups all over. Is there any other questions on kind of my experience in working for a startup or anything really?
Oh, go ahead.
I'll be the brave person to pull myself off
Thank you.
incognito. I was just honestly in today. I work at the university. I am a grad student, but I'm a little bit way past the targeted marketing age for this kind of thing. But I was curious, just more of a comment to you, not a question. We work obviously in my role at the university. I work with a lot of alumni, and that could be young alumni, that could be old alumni. So I was more curious on what this new piece of technology was as
Yeah.
compared to other social media apps. And we're venturing down actually an interesting new path on using another platform to connect with our alumni that the entire university system, the University of Illinois system, has been rolling out already. So I was just kind of curious what this does and how it connects people and how it relates to my work with alumni. So that's why I was on today.
Definitely. And I think that there's opportunity with Sparrows really for anybody at any age. I think the reason why we've seen the audience lean more towards Gen Z is I think that the younger audience really relates to that personal element more than some people who have been working for years do. Whereas, like, you know, back in the day, you were like, hey, I need a job. This is my resume, and like gave a handshake, and we're like, okay, deal. Like now it's way more. I think the younger generation is looking at this personal element and just being like, wow, like I relate to that. That resonates with me. That works like for what I'm looking for. But I do think there's opportunity for really everybody there. And once all of our connection elements and everything like that is built out, I think that truly anybody could find use in it. Or even if you're older and you're looking for a job and you just want a new way to stand out, I definitely recommend keeping Sparrows in the back of your mind and building a profile and just seeing how that works for you. There's another question. Is there an established salary at the beginning? Do you mean for Sparrows or just working for startups in general? Because yes, typically there is. I would say typically there is definitely an established salary at most jobs that you will, startups in general. Okay, yeah. So yeah, definitely. I think that it definitely ranges depending your level of experience and everything like that and the type of job that you're looking for. But there's typically an established salary, whether that be a yearly salary. Some of them I guess may do hourly, but for the most part, I would say there's for sure an established salary. Cool. Is there any other questions that I could help answer for the startup, for working for a startup?
Could you speak a little more about what your typical day is like? So working remotely and with everything being new, do you have like typical hours that you work each day? Are there requirements related to that in terms of structure? Or is it just kind of do what you need to do to get your work done? How's that look?
Yeah, so I would say Sparrows for me is a little bit more unique where it is kind of do what you need to do and get your work done. And I would say a lot of companies now that are remote are leaning that way. For me, I do work, you know, normal like 8 to 5, 9 to 5 typically. Most of my team is in California, so I typically start before them. But and there's a couple times where, you know, I'll have to take a meeting after 5 o'clock, and that's totally fine. I think that's just part about being flexible, and that's not even just for startups. That's for really any job. So I would say my day to day, it's very much changing right now. A big part of my role is growing our user base. So I do a lot of outreach. I talk to different universities. I do different career fairs. I message people on LinkedIn. I cold message people on LinkedIn. We have a big focus on career coaches and resume writers right now because we've really found that their clientele, like this is something that can really help them. So I talk to a lot of those people and see how we can help them implement Sparrows into their clients, you know, kind of portfolio. We also, like I said, we have different internship classes. So we just started an internship class this week, and I'll get a little bit more into our internships in a second, but I work with them as well. And it just honestly, it changes every day. I do social media. But right now, like I said, my biggest focus is the user growth. But speaking about, you know, internships and internships at Sparrows, we do have quite a few opportunities right now. Like I said, we just started an internship class this week, but we will continue to do them like every few months typically. We probably had in the last year over 100 interns come in and out, some who are still with us from last summer, and they just, you know, kind of lowered their hours for the school year and everything like that. We allow our interns like a lot of flexibility. If you could do 5 hours one week and 10 hours the next, that's great. If you could put in full time, that's great. It's truly what you put in is what you're going to get out here. So if anybody is interested in internships, especially for Sparrows, what we do look for are students, typically undergrad, um, because we just found that they're usually the ones that are like on campus the most. We do look for students who are active and a part of clubs or business fraternities, who are just really active on campus. What we ask from those interns is to help us grow our user base. So we ask them to, host workshops with other students on their school, at their school, similarly to like what I just did earlier by showing you guys how to build a profile and what the benefits are. We'll ask students, our interns, to do that. We don't really care if they bring in 10 interns or 100, or sorry, not 10 interns, 10 users or 100 users. It doesn't really matter to us. We just want the word to get out there. And then in turn, we give them the opportunity to really be hands-on, learn a lot. We have a marketing team, a data analytics team, social media, um, product and user experience design, and we allow our interns to choose kind of what interests them and work in any of those departments. Or if they want to do a little bit of each department, they can do a couple weeks of marketing, a couple weeks of product, etc. So that's kind of, we give our interns like a ton of experience, and then in turn we look for people who can bring in new users to our site. Right now, like I said, we did just start a new internship class, but we would most likely be doing another one midsummer and then in the fall. So if anybody's interested, what we look for is people who make a Sparrows profile, fill it out to completion, and then we have them email me their links and go from there in terms of the interview process. Is there any questions on that? Are there any skills or personalities that thrive well in a startup environment? What are some commonalities in the people you have met at startups? That's an interesting question. I think that yes, they're skill-wise, I think anybody could truly learn anything. Obviously, it's one thing if you're a developer and you're coding all day long, but personalities, you just have to be really flexible and you have to be able to work independently a lot of the times. And you also have to not be afraid to ask questions as well, because there's going to be things, especially at the beginning of your career, that you're going to get stuck on. And that's totally okay. Everybody gets stuck on things. So you can't be afraid to ask questions. You definitely have to be flexible, be able to be really responsible for your work. A lot of the times in startups, especially the smaller ones, you don't really have somebody that's over your shoulder and telling you what to do all the time. So you have to be able to be responsible for what you're doing. Just kind of, like I don't want to say know what to do, because you don't have to know what to do, but be able to kind of make tasks for yourself, if that makes sense. So I know that, my biggest goal right now is to grow our user base. So I go and do the outreach myself. I figure out kind of what's working, what's not working, change it based on that. And that's all myself. I don't necessarily go to somebody else to kind of help me with that all the time. Not that I don't have the ability to, but everybody's really busy in startups. So you really do, there's a level of autonomy that you have to be comfortable with. Um, some commonalities in people that I've met at startups. I would say people that work at startups are all very passionate about what they're doing. Um, they all really believe in the product or whatever it is that's either being sold or they're doing. Um, like previously, for example, I worked for a company that developed digital software and hardware. So, for example, if you go to a McDonald's and you see the kiosks or the digital hardware through the drive-through, that's all beautiful and the menus are gorgeous. That's what we did. It seems like a really odd thing to enjoy doing, but everybody there is super passionate about digital signage, and I became super passionate about digital signage. So uh, that is definitely, like, I would say big commonalities. Everybody's just overly passionate and very excited about what they're doing, and really focused, and also very busy. um, so those are just some commonalities. Hopefully that helps answer that question. I think it also just depends, where you live, what kind of company it is, how big it is, what that company is doing, and everything like that. But that's definitely what I've noticed so far. I think passion being one of the biggest ones, and people who also aren't afraid to give their opinion and know that it may get shot down, but that's okay too. And that happens again in all business. But yeah, are there any other questions that I could help answer either on our internships or the startup world or Sparrows in general? I do see, so I do see somebody ask me about Sparrow's hiring new grads in computer science and what programming languages may be required. So currently, all of our developers, we have a developer team based in India. So we don't have anything internal right now. We've outsourced that. So currently, no. And I also could not tell you what programming languages may be required because I'm not quite sure. That doesn't mean to say that we wouldn't eventually be hiring an internal team to do that. So I would definitely say, like connect with us on LinkedIn, make a Sparrows profile, feel free to send it to me. I could um, send you guys I could put my email in the chat and everything like that. But I would say just keep your eye open. We are growing, so it's definitely possible, but at this moment, no. Any other questions that I could help answer? I think that's kind of the end of my spiel. So
Thank you so much, Gina, for the overview and kind of insight to your career path and helping us learn a little bit more about Sparrows and what that has to offer.
yeah, absolutely.
As you mentioned, are you comfortable putting your email in the chat?
Yeah, I will right now.
If not, or even so too, you can also reach out to us here in the Career Development Center, career services at uis.edu. If you have questions or if you missed it and you want to follow up, we can provide that information too.
Yeah, absolutely. I just put my email in the chat. And then again, like I said, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. It's just Sparrows, or it's Sparrows Co. On Instagram, it's Sparrows Co. Facebook, all that kind of social media. It's all typically Sparrows or sparrows.co. And please make a profile. And if you do, feel free to send it along to me. I'd love to see what everybody comes up with and what everybody's looking to do, and what your interests are. And if you are interested in working for Sparrows eventually full time, like I said, always keep your eye out. I mean, things are changing every day. If you're interested in an internship, make that profile, send it along to me, and we can get started with a bigger conversation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Gina, for joining us today. Thanks for everyone for hopping on. Great questions, great conversation, and hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Yeah, thank you guys.